Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as we move around some crocus bulbs in the springtime. So let's go. It is the end of April and my crocus bulbs have already bloomed and have already gone by. The foliage is still there, which is a good thing because you want to keep the foliage on your plants for as long as possible because the foliage is what feeds the bulb, so it puts on another great show for next spring. I made a video recently showing you my process for moving some snowdrops, which are really pretty, nice white flower, and those already went by, so it was a great time for me to move those bulbs. I'll put a link to that video down in the description below. Today, I figured together we could move some crocus bulbs. I have the crocuses in a couple of places in my yard, and they were planted there temporarily. Right now where I'm sitting, this is the north side of my yard. And behind me, you can see there's a bunch of daffodils. Right behind the daffodils are some daylilies. Right behind the daylilies, I had temporarily planted a whole bunch of spring bulbs because I really didn't know where I wanted to put them. Well, I did that a few years ago. And the problem is, even though they looked really pretty when they were blooming, they're right in my walkway between my daylilies as well as my peonies. So they really need to be moved to a different place. But before we start digging the crocuses, I wanted to show you some other really pretty bulbs that are blooming in here right now. And don't worry, in a different video, we'll be moving those bulbs. So let's go, I want to show you them. I think most of us are familiar with the purple colored muscari or grape hyacinth. Did you know that you can get them in a light pink blush color as well? Well, you can, and you can see I have a few here. They're so sweet, very dainty. They are starting to turn more of a white color now, but they were definitely a pinker color when they first came out. On a different day, we'll be moving those. And look how beautiful these daffodils are. I'm almost sure they're replete, but I'm not positive. But regardless, they definitely will get moved on a different day to a different place in my yard. And here are some hyacinths. They are a peachy pink color. They are just so beautiful. And I'm excited because I have quite a few here. So those can get moved on a different day. So there were a couple of different types of anemones. And this specific variety of anemone is a perennial in the zone where I live. And even though it's a weedy mess all around it, one day we will come and we will dig these out and we'll put them somewhere where they can really shine. And here's another beautiful yet different daffodil that I have in my yard. So excited. I have so many different varieties that I'm looking forward to moving. When it comes to crocuses, one giveaway that it's a crocus plant is the leaves will usually be green and they have a nice white stripe down the center. And many times they're planted only about maybe 3 inches deep, not very deep at all. So I'm just going to use a regular small hand shovel and carefully dig them out. And the key is you don't want to dig right at the base of your bulb. You don't want to damage your bulb. So you want to dig a little bit far away from the base. And now remember, we want to keep the green part on here because when we plant it, this plant will still be photosynthesizing and it will be feeding the bulb. So there's a couple right there and you can see that these are pretty small. Fortunately, it was pretty easy digging. These were not very deep, so that's why I was able to just use my small hand shovel. And I know when I planted these, it was a small package of them, and they really have naturalized over time, which is so exciting because it just increases my stock and it just gives me more bulbs that I can plant elsewhere in my landscape. And in case you're wondering what color are these crocuses, what I'm going to do is put on the screen a picture of what these crocuses look like when they bloomed in the springtime. They were very pretty. They were mostly like a whitish color with a little tinge of purple on them. But then I know there was one, I think it was either orange or yellow color crocus hidden in this mix, which was kind of neat. So let's go to the place where we're going to plant these now. We're on the south side of my house, and I call this bed the old arborvitae bed. There used to be 3 arborvitae that were in this bed, and those got removed a couple of years ago. And we worked on a project in the past to add some plants in this space. And I do have some spring bulbs that are very pretty. They're called Glory of the Snow, and they've already pretty much gone by. There's a few of them that are still blooming. And what I did was I just basically made holes around the Glory of the Snow. Also in here is some candy tuft. So I kind of played around with spacing. And what I came up with was a way that we can put the crocuses in this bed and also add another spring bulb at a different date that we can also add in this bed. So what I'll do is take you in for a closer look just to show you the spacing of the bulbs. Right there is Candy Tuft, and then I put about 5 of the crocus bulbs in that hole there, and then right next to it is Glory of the Snow, and then I'm going to put a different bulb on a different date there, which I think would look pretty. They're very tiny little whitish pink colored bulbs that bloom in the springtime. And then again, you can see another Candy Tuft. And basically that pattern repeats itself all the way on this side. And the pattern also repeats itself on the opposite side of the bed. So we dug about 40 crocus bulbs. So I'm able to put about 5 in each hole, which is a great thing. Typically, when it comes to spring blooming bulbs, you want to plant it 2 to 3 times deeper than the size of the bulb. But another giveaway is you can see right here, this part was underground and this green part was above the ground. And that's exactly how deep I'm going to plant this. And if I had to guess, it's about 2 inches, which is right. If you looked it up on the internet or in a book, you would see that crocuses usually like to be planted about 2 to 3 inches deep. And I might as well spend the time and space them out a little bit because I want them to multiply and grow. There's no use in just putting them all on top of each other in this hole. And then you just want to backfill. I really like to move my spring bulbs after they're done blooming because I can still see the plant and they're easy to find. I find that if I wait until the fall time, even if I mark it with something, like a spoon or something, sometimes it's still hard to find where I planted the bulb. So I really like to just plant them as soon as they're done blooming. And you can do that with any of your bulbs. You can even move them when they're blooming. Just make sure that you're giving them plenty of water after you move them, and also make sure you leave the leaves intact so that they're still photosynthesizing and feeding the bulbs for next year. Now that we planted these, let me get the rest of them planted. I'll show you what they look like, and everything will also get a drink of water. Okay, the crocuses have been planted, and I also watered them. And now the next thing again will be just to get some of the other spring blooming bulb that I talked about earlier and get those planted in here. And that will probably be it, I'm guessing, for spring bulbs in this bed. But I'm very happy to get the crocuses here. 2 big things to keep in mind when it comes to crocuses. The first thing is you want to make sure you're planting them in a full sun area. And the next and most important thing actually is to make sure that the soil is well draining. Crocuses and many other spring blooming bulbs do not like to get too wet, so make sure that they're in well draining soil so that they don't rot. I really hope you're enjoying this type of content, and if you are, please consider hitting the like button down below, as well as hitting the notification bell and subscribing to my channel. That really helps me out a lot, and then you get notified every time I post a new video. I hope you're able to get out in your gardens, and until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.